All right, so we have been gifted with a video that I think perfectly demonstrates what misandry looks like. We've all heard about misogyny. Misandry is female hatred of dudes. And I think this clip perfectly shows it. This is the lead singer of Garbage, a band, a punk rock band, which some of us have heard of. And she kind of lost her cool at a show over a large man with a beach ball who is actually just a fan, but received the venom of 1,000 angry feminist sons directed his way. And I think it's worth looking at and kind of breaking it down, because most of us have kind of seen this attitude and the hate, and it's causing a real schism. If a man talked to a woman this way, especially a female fan, I think people will be shocked and up in arms. So without further ado, let's watch.
Did you catch what happened on Friday night at the Good Things Festival in Melbourne? Well, if you missed it, the woke lead singer of the appropriately band named Garbage, her name's Shirley Manson, threatened a concert goer over a beach ball. Yes, a beach ball. A normal Aussie festival tradition. In case you missed it, have a watch.
You're a fucking middle-aged man in a fucking ridiculous hat, and you're a fucking fuckface.
Stop there. You're a middle-aged man in a ridiculous hat, and you're an effing F-face. Now, just to be fair, I saw this popping up quite a bit, and just when I saw this woman Shirley's face, you know, she kind of looks like a witch. Let's just be honest. She's got witch features. You know, the witch trope exists for a reason. If you live long enough, you're going to meet a couple witches. And real witches too. Like Wiccan, I think is the fastest growing religion in the United States. I've met a lot of actual witches, but this woman has the physiognomy of a witch. And what's ironic is that she's kind of living the dream, you know? She's a rock star. She's got thousands of people adoring her in an audience, listening to her do her craft, which is music. I think for a lot of us, you know, that would be like the dream. Wow, whole audience coming to see me and my art. She's been doing it for a while too. She's got longevity. I'm sure, you know, hanging out with rock stars all the time, she's probably experienced every hedonistic pleasure. You can be sure that, you know, she's laid with a lot of rock stars and fans and kind of had her pick of the litter in those ways, but also just validation, status, wealth, money. You know, everything is seemingly going right for her. I didn't research this, but probably doesn't have a family. I think the music industry, especially for women, it's really tough because right when you're kind of, you know, cutting your teeth, you're in your prime, you know, family making years. So that's a bummer, and I think that's probably has something to do with why she's so angry. But yeah, just on her face, you know, I'm not seeing a lot of male rock stars who seem this angry and, you know, upset looking when their dreams have come true. So that's worth noting. Maybe we can psychoanalyze a little bit about why she's so angry. But I got into the comments and, you know, I'd say things like, hey, this is misandry. This is clearly a woman who hates this guy because he's a middle-aged man. I think she mentions how tall he is, his big hat. Clearly a man enjoying himself, especially like a large white man, just having a good time, sometimes pisses feminists off. You know, even if they have everything you don't have, they have more than you. It just makes them upset that you're having such a good time. And that's what I took from this. I mean, there's a video of the guy, like from his point of view, and he's kind of off to the side in his own world. And by the way, the beach ball that he has that triggered her. It's like a tiny beach ball. It's very funny. He's just waving it around, and the background that her defenders wanted to give me is that, you know, he was kind of being disruptive. He was trying to get her attention with this beach ball, which fair enough, but that's pretty common behavior at a concert to, you know, wave. I'll never forget, I went to a Seal concert, and I think I was the only person who wasn't a middle-aged woman. And I got to the front row, I snuck in, and I was singing Kiss from a Rose. Like a kiss from a rose on a something. Baby, I can get a kiss from a rose. I don't even know the words. But I was loving that song so much that he pointed in the audience and made eye contact with me and said, "This young man gets it." And that was a great moment. That's kind of what, as an audience member and a fan, you want to experience with this idol on stage. And Seal was nice enough to give me that. This woman does not react the same way. And for some background about the guy, as it turns out, he is like a festival head. And I don't advise guys to do this, to see festivals. Women do it a lot too, especially like EDM girls. You know, they talk about how there's almost like a spiritual experience you get going to concerts and festivals. And I think a lot of people who are devoid of meaning look for their meaning in these communal, ritualistic activities with sound and sight and drugs. And, you know, they're feeling things. So they go, I'm just gonna do that. And, you know, famously, Fish, and before that, who are the guys who inspired Fish? Deadheads, Grateful Dead. People would go on tour with the Grateful Dead for their lives. Like, that was basically their life. And it seems like this guy's kind of like that. He's probably got a whole collection of lanyards or, you know, bracelets from all the concerts he's gone to. And he had some old garbage records and had gone to shows for many years. He's a fan. And this is how he was treated. And, you know, being a stoic kind of guy, he didn't seem to take this too personally. But I think that's a problem. I think guys take a lot of things that they should get upset by. He was like, "Oh, she's probably just having a bad day, but, you know, I don't think it was fair, but I went home and listened to my garbage album, and, you know, I'm still a fan. I separate the art from the artist." It's like, no, you should hate this woman now. She hated you and humiliated you in public. But he just kind of took it on the chin. I think that's one of the reasons why these don't become bigger scandals. He didn't play into, like, hey, I was kind of victimized here by a person of authority, and they humiliated me, and as you'll see, continuously threatened violence. So I want to point out that if the roles were flipped here, this would be a huge scandal, and everybody would be hating this person. But because it's a woman doing it to a man, a lot of defenders in these comment sections say, "Yeah, you didn't see the whole story. He was waving that beach ball around. He probably deserved it," which is victim blaming. So let's continue.
And I literally want to fucking ask people to punch you in the fucking face. I'm a lady, so I won't.
I'm a lady, so I won't. You just did. You kind of just did. You know, F-face, I want to punch your freaking face, middle-aged loser. Just because you say you won't because you're a lady and you're doing it doesn't change it. But that's very interesting. You know, I'm a lady. Are you? Are you a lady? Because you're behaving worse than the most belligerent men I could think of. And, you know, just imagine, like, who's a good punk rocker? Imagine Sid Vicious being on stage and saying, "Look at this young lady in the front. trying to get my attention. You little wee little girl with your small little chest. Oh, you think you're so hot. I wish I could punch you in the face. I won't do it, but I wish I could send my security out there to destroy you and punch you. And, you know, it would really seem out of place. I don't think I've ever seen a meltdown from a guy to a girl. Hey, that's that dramatic. And here we are. And as you can see, as it goes on, there's boos, but there's also cheers. And I can't help but notice the boos are from guys and the cheers are from women. So just two groups seeing this completely differently. And the comment section reflected that. Just a ton of guys being like, this is so not cool. This guy was a fan. This is totally inappropriate. And a lot of women going, well, we don't know what's going on. And he was probably asking for it. And, you know, it's not cool that he had a beach ball or whatever. So I want to point out that if the roles were reversed, everybody would be in agreement. But because it's a lady, there's a gender split going on here. And if we could just agree that this is misandry, that a lot of women do hate men, and that it's something that should be called out if we're going to heal as the gender war and come together a little bit, this would be a good place to start, because this woman is given every privilege in the world, and she's so bitter and hateful of a fan. I can't really think of a misogynist who is that on the nose besides like the incels. Elliot Rodgers, his journals are like, these beautiful women, they don't give me what I want. I hate them. I want to kill them. This woman is like in Elliot Rodgers territory. And it's very ironic that their favorite insult is to call men incels. Men who disagree with feminism, they call them incels. But this is like a classic femcel. And it doesn't mean that she's celibate, like she can't get sex. It's more like this bitterness has, I guess, formed because there's either some bitterness that men seem to have it easier regulating and being happier than you, or because it can't be that men have more money and success than you. This is like a super successful, rich person. So it either has to be like, I'm mad that men can have this much fun and not be as bitter and hateful and angry as I am, or it has something to do with I didn't have children, I aged out, men aren't giving me the attention I was before, and I'm bitter because I'm not going to have a family. Or I slept with the greatest rock stars in the world, and now men like this disgust me, so I can never have a fulfilling relationship. Because what else is she missing that's making her this bitter? That's the femcel archetype. You're able to have sex. This woman probably had sex that week or could, but you're not able to find happiness and fulfilling connection and relationship. And you blame that on men because that's what you've been taught to do. That's the whole feminist narrative, is no matter how well I do and how nice and happy the guys around me are, they are still responsible for my lack of fulfillment. Somehow I've got to fit that square peg into a round hole of somehow this is your fault that I'm becoming a witch. So let's continue.
But if truly
Violence is not the
I would
answer,
love to send my
Shirley.
crew over to fucking mess you up, but you know what? I won't, because I pity you.
Love to send my crew over to mess you up, but I won't because I pity you. I pity you. You see the gymnastics that are going on here? Of like, how can I just hit you in every single area? I've already called you, middle-aged. I'd like to commit violence against you, but you're not even worth it. You're so miserable and pathetic. And as the video goes on, of course, she calls out his genitals. This is common. Got a small little thing. They call it the genitals. There's a lot of like fantasizing about mutilating the genitals, kicking them, destroying them, cutting them off. Once again, if we flip that, Sid Vicious said, listen, you think you're so hot. I'd love to kick you in the, I'd love to, remove your clitoris. Like it's, ugh. it's shocking to even think about. I don't think I've ever heard someone go that deep, but it's very common, for feminists to say, like, somebody kick him in the balls. And every movie you watch now, like even the latest Naked Gun movie, there's always like ball kicking happening to guys. It's like it's such a thing that, like, the only joke we all agree on is seeing a guy get kicked in his genitals. So these are kind of disturbing things when you take a step back. And I can already hear people saying, "Oh, you're taking it too seriously, whatever." But I'm just flipping it. And I'm also saying that, like, in order to speak this way, you have to have a lot of hate. And we don't like hate in our culture, right? Because it speaks to, like, an underlying maliciousness that could have really negative consequences if it grows. Like, if all women thought this way, you get situations where they're celebrating death, and they're celebrating the death of public figures. And, these are people that would say people like Charlie Kirk are sexist. But Charlie Kirk never talked to a woman this way. He doesn't talk to black people this way. He says, you're made in the image of God. You're worthy of love and success. I just don't want you, being told the wrong things or given a handout or given affirmative action. It's actually not fair to you. It's a totally different tone than this, like, unadulterated hatred and let me just throw every jab I can at you to hurt you. So if people are so concerned by the rhetoric of, like, a Charlie Kirk to the point where they want him dead, I think we should be concerned about what this kind of rhetoric represents. And for those of us, who are in the world, who are in the field, who are dating, it has real implications because, guys are stepping out of dating because of this. That's why a lot of men will say, I don't want to date a feminist, because of this underlying miasma of resentment. I mean, resentment is really, really corrosive. If you don't deal with your resentment and your envy, you become a witch, or something really dark. And so I think it's important to call this out.
Because you're a small man with a small
man.
dick.
There
Good
it
night,
is.
angel face.
There it is. Things men can't change, just every angle possible to humiliate you. And by the way, the only thing that provoked this was this guy waving a beach ball and trying to get attention and having fun at a concert. And maybe he went a little too far with that. But that doesn't explain all of this projection that's coming up from Shirley from garbage here. It doesn't. This is a hint into the psyche, the subconscious resentment that is very common even amongst women that are achieving all the successes that feminism started to create. So everything that feminists wanted, this woman got, and there's this much resentment. So something deeper is going on here. Some propaganda against specifically white men, but men in general. Girls are told from an early age that men are basically like this. They hate women the way she hates men. That's why I say projection. Projection is the most important psychological phenomenon to understand the modern world. In the 1920s, they called it the age of anxiety. I call this the age of projection. And it explains so much. Everything this woman hates, is deep within her unconscious mind and is a part of her. So she's projecting her own hatred onto this guy and making him the enemy. But what she's projecting onto him, she's exhibiting here. So that's really common nowadays. And it's kind of difficult to unravel, especially for someone who is told time and time again, well, the punching bag that you have here, this white guy, he's actually the enemy. He's the hateful one. everything you're doing is justified because he's evil. Doesn't allow for any reflection on her part.
Good night, angel face.
Witnesses say that the bloke did nothing wrong. There was no harassment, no aggression.
Yeah, he wasn't
just
harassing.
taking part in the show in the most Aussie way possible. Yet she singled him out and tried to turn the crowd on him. And instead of apologising, she doubled down right up until arriving in Brisbane last night.
So then she makes a non-apology and she diverts it away from all the male-centric criticism she was giving to him and his genitals and how old he was and, you know, what a little man he was. She diverts it to the beach ball, which I don't think she really mentioned in that rant very much. So that's gaslighting. You know, she's, hey, you just went after me for things I can't change and for being a man. You must hate men. No, it was about a beach ball. That's gaslighting, right? No, we were there. Wasn't about a beach ball. It was about this guy being a man and you hating him for that. So gaslights, and then later on, I think she said she did another non-apology where it was like, oh, you all care about this beach ball so much, still gaslighting, when there's violence in Palestine going on, which is just like, there's just so much chef's kiss to this video. It kind of is, it's like everything that's happening right now is in one video. But I would chalk these apologies up to just gaslighting us to our face. You're hateful as a man. Hey, now wait a minute. You did 10 hateful things here. That wasn't about hate. That was about a beach ball. Do you think, like, do we not have eyes? I think some guys don't have eyes because, you know, if you say, well, there's two sides to every story. This guy was inappropriate and it's really about the beach ball. A lot of guys are going to go, yeah, maybe you're right. Because we don't defend ourselves, you know? But if you want to have a family one day, if you want to get along as a culture, if you don't want men and women to have such a split in terms of politics and ideology and just have a lot of resentment, you got to call this stuff out. You know, tough love. You don't fix a problem by ignoring it. So step up, men. Say, yeah, that's not cool. I came to support you, and you leveled a bunch of weird personal hatred against me. Cool it.
Because Brizzy responded the only way Brizzy knows how, with even more beach balls, forcing the woke lunatic into this so-called apology.
I just have to address your glorious beach balls. They're very impressive. They're very impressive, and not only are they impressive, but they are very, very big.
More
So
euphemism
the
about
only thing that
small
kind of shocks me a
genitals.
little is that there's been more fuss made about me offending beach balls than there has about 20,000 Palestinian kids who are now f***ing under the dirt.
Nice diversion.
So
I'm sure
whilst
all
the
these guys hate
press
what's happening in
are
Palestine.
busy cooking up some kind of crazy, like, antichrist rhetoric, I would just like to remind you all
Bring
what
Christianity
actually
in there,
is important
nice.
in this life.
She's
And
marvelous
maybe a beach ball
manipulator.
brings you joy, and for that I apologise.
Back to the
If I
gaslighting.
upset you
not about
about
the beach
your
ball.
blessed beach balls, I humbly apologise.
However,
I would really like it if the governments of the day apologise
for Palestine,
what
right?
the f*** is happening
Yeah.
in Palestine.
What an apology. First she minimises it,
Yeah.
gaslights everyone about
Yeah.
what they're upset about, claiming it was just about the blessed beach balls, not the poor bloke. She tried to get bashed. Then she deflects to Palestine to prove to us how virtuous she really is. Yeah, nah. Sorry, mate. Aussies aren't that dumb.
Wow. Good analysis, Rebel News. And thanks for collecting those clips. They were all over the place, so I didn't want to collect them. Yeah, well said. I think this is like a masterclass in terms of how manipulative somebody can be. I mean, it's very clear that men have the monopoly on violence in our culture, although fewer and fewer men are using that violence in a systematic way because the consequences are so severe. I mean, even if like a woman were attacking me, if I just grab her arms, she can call the cops and say it was even Stevens. So men really aren't allowed to use force, but women are still allowed to use these violent manipulation tactics, including and up until calling for violence. So, I saw a lot of this when I'd be on the road covering protests. Women would crop up and they'd be very overt. They'd say, I need some soldiers over here to go attack that person. And I think that's like a very female thing of, I'm going to manipulate guys around me to sort of, I'll be like Daenerys with the dragons from Game of Thrones. These men will be my dragons and I'll tell them who to set on fire. And so that's sort of a female power fantasy that we're seeing here. And it is violence, and they get away with it. The guys will get in trouble. I don't think I've ever seen a woman get in trouble, besides maybe getting fired for a job, for trying to get security or men to commit violence on her behalf. I actually was at a party one time, and I got in a rap battle with somebody. Very similar situation to this, actually. We were just having the most joyous time rap battling. And some girl in the back, her resentment and hatred built up. I don't know, maybe it's like, a little bit of envy at the attention we're getting. At some points, it could be like misguided attraction. Like, I like that person, they don't like me, I hate them. There can be a lot of things going on there. But this woman came up out of the crowd as we were rap battling, came up to me and just slapped me across the face. And I said, whoa, what is going on here? She starts screaming and screaming. And then she turns to the guys that came with her and says, go kick his ass, like fight him. She was like ordering them to fight me. I just look at these guys and I go, are you really going to take orders from this person? And I looked at her and I said, did you have like an ex-boyfriend that looked like me or something? Like, why are you so mad? I don't even know you. And she couldn't explain it. The guys later came up and apologized to me. The whole party apologized because it was just completely out of nowhere. But something about us having a good time, the way I looked, who knows? It would take a team of psychologists to really pinpoint like what was going on. There might not have even been anything going on in her mind. It might have just been an emotional flare-up of some kind. But it was enough to get her to commit violence and ask people to commit violence on her behalf. And the way women manipulate the men around them and the people around them, she wasn't successful in this case because we all saw it. And I was being a nice guy and I got along with everybody at the party. So there wasn't any animosity towards me. But watching her try to manipulate that situation in a similar way is fascinating. And sometimes they kind of overdo it. They overreach and they lose the people, you might say. I don't think this guy or any guys should go to garbage shows. I think this should be condemned. And I think mainly what we do is we vote with our feet. So anytime I've been in a party or in a situation where women are acting like this, I just leave that group. I don't want to be around any group that tolerates any of this. In the same way, I wouldn't want to be around a group that tolerated a guy that said, well, you little girl with your small chest and this and that, I wish I could kick you in the privates. I wish somebody could come around here and just take you out. I don't want to be in a group that tolerates that guy, and I don't want to be in a group that tolerates the female equivalent of him just because, she's using some gaslighting manipulation tactics. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you guys have any other clips you want me to react to, send them my way, and we'll continue on with the devolution.